Hello, and welcome to Resolve, an after-play show. This is an after show for a role-playing game that does not have an actual play, where we tell you all the details of our game, so you'll have to listen to it. Hi, I'm Sammie, I'll be your host. My pronouns are she, her, and I play Asiri Omoli, the Hope of the Abyss. Joining me is my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I play the Malboro Juice and his Moogle companions, the Smogs. All of us use he, him pronouns.
We are joined today by Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach. I use he, him pronouns, and I play Tau, the half-dozen dragons who all use they, them.
We are also joined today by Daniel.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the game master for this campaign.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Now that we're all here, Alex, why don't you tell us about the actual play?
Previously, in EFFETE, Pony chases after the WorldCorps while the remainder of the party take on the governance with some of the racers. As Pony enters a staticky portal, WorldCorps is transported back into the configuration. Asiri regroups with Forsafini. Smog pays a visit to Charlene, a friend he betrayed in his homeworld. She informs him of an issue with their world that she believes she can solve with a sacrifice. Smog informs her that he will return soon to help with another solution. The party is split up, leaving Pony and Geyser to meet Asiri's sister, Karina, before they regroup. Karina tries to get more information about Asiri's connection to the Abyss, but she is relatively coy. Asiri asks Karina to help gather more folk so they can avoid future unfortunate times. Tau finds their original producer, Hanabi, in an apartment working on a music assignment. They catch up, Tau informing him about their progress in making a world. Pony meets the legendary unicorn Shiro Blanco in the woods. Through her excitement, Pony has a conversation with him about how to advance her own magic. Moved by her devotion to others and her own path, Shiro grants her a wish. Before returning to Sequence Charter, WorldCorps sees a beach full of ships and harvestmen. Aura finds a group telling them that they have been gone for 60 days. Smog and Tau take Aura's interworld comms devices before returning to help people of the World of Motion.
So now that you've heard the actual play, let's do a deep dive into the session. Governance Fight Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, let's go.
Yeah.
I first want to hear what your thoughts are.
They're being a pain in my ass is what's happening.
Yeah, they definitely are. Cutting to where we saw them in between worlds on the way back from the configuration to Sequence Charter. Governance seems to have some way that we don't necessarily know about to go between worlds. I mean, it was concerning before, but I get the feeling that the order in which we did these worlds matters because the governance is probably going to be interfering quite a lot as we get to the next one.
See, I have this completely unfounded hypothesis. I don't think the governance can go anywhere that we can't, beyond whatever interference bubble is cast. Why else would they be trying to collect the WorldCorps that we keep going after? There's got to be some reason for their meddling here. The other thing that may be true is that they can go other places and they're just stopping us from trying to get the same accessibility that they have. But I feel like there are easier ways to stop us that they have potential access to. If they can travel beyond whatever limitations we have, why aren't they doing so?
I already shared my conspiracy theory last time I was on, that they can go one place that we can't go, which is the portal that blew up. But yeah, I get the feeling that they aren't necessarily going that far above and beyond what we can do. They're just ahead in terms of the tech to get there.
Mm-hmm.
There's sort of a soft implication in this ambush, too, that they cannot or would have a harder time revealing the WorldCorps on their own. Why wait until we already see it and then have to fight us who have already trounced them? Seems like a pretty poor tactic if they could reveal it and collect it on their own.
Several times during that fight, they were talking about be careful of their magic, be careful of whatever the hell they're doing. It's very clear they view us as a potent threat.
I think that's demonstrable at this point.
Yeah, after everything we did to take down the first ship, I would hope that they view us as a threat.
It doesn't help for them that we're weirdly creative.
True.
Smog having the new Link move, where he has to borrow local magic to do his ultimate form, was me wanting to make different summons happen. It's hard to predict what sort of magic you're going to come up against when you're always getting different summons. Geyser has been trapping people in things, but in very different ways. The system lends itself to doing weird and unexpected things.
I was going to mention Smog and Geyser especially have been particularly unexpected, but even Tau and Desiri have changed significantly since the first time we encountered the Governance on that underwater ship, because we've both gone through playbook changes.
Plus, some of the things Asiri's been doing has been, there's no discernible, like, summon or cast. She's not doing anything different. Things just ambiently happen. So you can't quite pull the source as her.
They've learned some things about you all. You experienced firsthand that they knew Asiri has a bubble of water around her. If you disrupt that, you could disrupt the mermaid herself. And they tried to use that against you. They cannot predict how fast you all can move and change strategy.
Not just us, but also some of our buddies. We got some help in this fight against the Governance from some of the other racers. We had Sir Mizzle riding Glorybane into battle, and also the group that was in the lead that we never talked to on their cyber bikes.
Makes sense. Didn't have a chance to. They'll still be there if you all should ever go back.
They intrigue me. I would want to go figure out what their deal is, but we just never really had the time in the World of Motion.
Always on the move.
Mm-hmm.
If that was one of the earlier worlds we went to, we probably would have had more social time with everybody there. The problem is the stakes are that much higher at this point, and we're constantly getting interrupted.
Right.
Tau made a pretty prudent move, getting most of the relatively defenseless people away from this situation.
Initially, I was just going to have Tau jump into the fight, but first thing, right when they showed up, Asiri called out, Tau and Geyser, get the people out of harm's way. Pony, go after the WorldCorps, and took Smog with you to attack. Tau figured that sounded like a good plan, keep people safe, and went for it. Got Orthan and Patrick in their little jalopy out of the way.
When I was coming up with some of the characters for the World of Motion, I figured it would be funny to include a nod. Way earlier on, I think it was you, Sammie, where you're like, what's nice about this game is you don't have to throw down an orc defender as an encounter for your party. So I wanted Orthan to be what's an equivalent to an orc defender.
That's pretty good. I remember saying that. I think the context is a little different, Dan.
Oh, yes. They're their own
bit.
person. They're not just
Sure.
a beatbag.
That is really funny, though.
Orthan extreme husband guy.
You're right.
Yeah,
Totally get it.
exactly. He defends Patrick.
Oh, yeah, he definitely defends Patrick, all right.
They would not be very good in actually hurting people.
Yeah, they didn't seem the most combat ready.
For the World of Motion in particular, I didn't want it to be a simple death race, and I didn't want everyone to be like kitted out to hurt each other. One of the consequences is that they're not all really well suited to defend themselves. Sir Mizzle had like a lance on hand, which was pretty good, but a lot of the other racers probably would not do great in the fight.
The only reason the series barked out some orders is because we had people who could end up as casualties, which is not good. If the governance directly goes after the WorldCorps, that's also a problem. So it's better to have Pony, probably our fastest team member, grab it first thing, just sort of manage the rest from there.
The concept of like a low lethality race definitely works well with the butterfly constantly being just out of reach too, because then you have people needing to push more for speed and not worrying as much about the other competitors.
Right. Less of a speed racer knock each other off of cliffs kind of deal.
It was very much a personal sort of race for everyone.
Everyone's wishes.
All their wishes.
Tau getting people out of the way saved Smog and Juice a link for sure, because I was going to, instead of doing damage to all of the governance when I went into summon mode, use my ability to protect someone and then apply that to the group of people.
Ah.
Got that cleared out of the way, and I could instead do massive damage.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work, y'all, now that the series is not mad at Smog anymore.
Oh, these two work so well together when they're actually
I
vibing.
know.
They have a common cause.
God.
The light and the dark coming together.
Always in balance. Always in flux. The WorldCorps goes flying back off to the source portal that we came in on. Pony hoofs it literally. She follows it just to make sure it goes where it's supposed to go. And when she gets there, it's staticky. It's not quite the same portal that she was used to.
I remember describing to Pony that it is certainly a portal, but it will not take you back home. At least not directly.
I think this is the first time that I've transformed Smog and Juice as completely separate entities with the ultimate form move. So Juice became Titan, pretty stock and standard Final Fantasy summon, looking a little bit like the 9 iteration where it's like a torso coming out of the ground. And Smog got even tinier and became Sylph, which, look up Sylph, you'll find something.
Bite-sized cabbage fairy.
Specifically like the Final Fantasy XIV sylphs.
Yeah. Wind and earth power, because we have the giants that are like stone golems, and we have the wind constantly kicking up behind us. So that's the power from this world that Smog and Juice were tapping into.
Makes sense. And then we have Geyser pulling off another entrapment scenario, but instead of summoning a giant cube, it's bubbles of bubblegum.
Trapping 2 armored soldiers into a bubblegum bubble.
I need to say this to Dee, but I really hope the rest of this version of Geyser's magic is entirely candy-based.
I was just thinking, like, yeah, Geyser's becoming kind of food-based, because we got gelatin and cotton candy and bubblegum.
We had to ask if that's intentional. A lot of the magic that Geyser has done after this playbook change has also just been like surrounding food, like the seaweed, for example, as well.
Yeah, true.
A very culinary, investigative clown.
We're going to have an attack that turns you into a corn dog.
Oh.
Batter you right up.
That's terrible. Oh, one of those, like, deep-fried ice cream bars.
Or, like, zap someone into funnel cake.
Oh.
That'd be rough.
Fried butter.
Oh.
So as Juice and Smog are absolutely fucking the governance up, Tao is interrupting the communications officer on this group of governance officials by throwing a rock in their ribbons as a sling. That was pretty fucking sweet.
What were your thoughts about the communications guy?
Stupid hat.
Yeah, he seemed to be the leader of the group, ordering around the harvestmen. Tao at least thought that's priority target. Stop them from communicating. And this Tao is more physical, more of a dancer than a singer. I didn't go with the way that I took out the last one of these by screaming in dial-up connection. And throw a rock with my cool, elegant dance ribbon.
Is the antenna that this backpack unit has, is that the same as Thompson's little antenna thing?
Oh man, that's a callback. Not quite. The one that soldier was using was actually communicating between worlds, whereas Thompson's is mainly an intra-world affair. There's a lot of implications to what they were trying to get out and do regarding that.
So it's more like what the guy that we brought back had, that Aura was studying.
Kind of powered up version of that. Still running into some problems, still running into some interference.
That calm soldier, feeling the heat, tries to toss a flashbang at Asiri, but she's just like, no, you use it on yourself instead.
Asiri froze the darkness around this person, so it's just stuck to their arm.
We're on a moon's surface around some sort of gas giant. Right as the shadow of the planet falls over the moon, it also causes the grenade to stick to this guy, because fuck you.
Abyssal darkness continuing to thwart.
Yeah, Siri's just sitting there like, you shot a heat gun at my bubble.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. Again, nothing physically happens, but like the darkness is just like, no, you don't get to explode in front of me.
It parallels back when the moon was falling down, and Asiri caused the ships to freeze in place at a very unfortunate moment, because that's when the paradigm was ready to fire upon them.
Yep.
Right, yeah.
So it is very established that Asiri uses the darkness to just stop things in their place.
Unfortunately, this does have the repercussion of the flashbang going off on this dude, which is standing right next to Tao. Sorry, Tao.
That did happen. Tao got a little bit blinded by that, but perfectly fine, generally.
Sometimes you gotta take one for the team.
Yeah.
Just sit right in the radius of my fireball as long as there are 8 other people gathered around you.
Valid strategy. Especially since we have people that can heal.
Yeah.
combat fun times end because Pony touches the portal.
Portal.
It wasn't a fight till the bitter end. For at least Pony was concerned, it was buying time until the WorldCorps could be secured. One of the results is that you all were just immediately extracted.
I am a little bitter about that. I wanted more governance people to plop in front of Terra, but unfortunately it is beyond my hands now.
I didn't necessarily want to leave right then because we did pull these people into a fight and then just vanish on them. Who knows how Sir Mizzle and Glorymane are getting on, because they already got hurt once.
We'll talk about this later, too, but we also revealed a possibly horrifying truth about their worlds and left them.
Yeah, kind of just left right away after revealing that everything that they knew was a lie.
Love that for you.
It's been a little bit of a continuing thread where the WorldCorps party has entered into a world, flipped some pretty big understanding on its head, and then said, "This is how it is now. See you later."
That's true.
Yeah.
We had a little bit more aftercare with most of the other
That's true.
Previously, we had more time to do said aftercare. Now we're kind of in the rut here. But I would also argue that we didn't fundamentally alter the worldview of Lone's world. We just got them to accept it was time to move on.
We altered the worldview of every single person in that world.
You did usher in the start of a new universe.
This is the first one where we didn't really have any discussion with the people of the world about what that change was going to look like. Even back to the world of spirit, we had some talk with the people of the world about what the beast might be and what their world might look like going forward, even if we didn't have a full understanding of it. For ages and song, we knew how we wanted to change the world a bit more and talked it over with the people there. This one was, now everything's different. Bye.
It's not like there wasn't this knowledge available, right? Anyone could have ate a flower. Clearly, the Manticore was aware of this for some reason. It's not unlikely that other people are also somewhat aware of it. It's just the populace at large didn't seem to be.
I really wanted to get a chance to chat with that Manticore. Seemed to have some deeper insight into the world.
Well, too bad, because we get Forsythini.
Yes!
On the positive
it's okay!
side.
Everything will be fine! Stingray Blast! Oh, man.
Yeah. Once more into the EFFETE configuration, every two connected worlds would result in a passage for a session. The longer you spend in there, probably the more strange it would seem, and I don't know how beneficial that would be in the long term, besides the fact that that's where a lot of the background is.
Tao is interested in seeing where Athenos is here, because everyone realizes that we've entered the configuration.
At first, I don't think we were really sure if it was the configuration, so Tao was like, if this is the configuration, then Athenos is probably here. Let's see if he's here. And he was, but not exactly.
Yes.
The way you described it was that Tao sensed that Athenos seemed to be back in his original world, but in a path that we could reach through the configuration.
Little bit of a challenge on my end, because I'm always careful with what I want to do with Athenos, especially not having the player here. But obviously, it wouldn't make sense if they were completely gone. I tried to find an in-between.
They could come back should Dex be available again. When you were describing the portal that Pony saw as staticky, I was like, oh shit, the governance put their portal over our portal.
That is exactly what I thought too.
Oh man.
I was gonna flip the table.
Just
Unfortunately, we ended up here instead of in wherever the fuck the governance is situated right now, which may be here too.
Maybe.
Zap into a flat slab of concrete and they all have a bunch of guns pointed at you.
Literally, that's what I thought was gonna happen.
I'm not that mean as a GM, but God, if I knew about that, I would have teased you more with the concept.
Jerk.
And then one of the governance takes off their helmet, and it's a Tau.
Oh,
God, no!
The Tau from the configuration!
No! No! how you cannot double cross us like this. A series is gonna have to eat you.
If the governance have a world, then there might be a Tau there.
A series still gonna eat them.
Yeah, that one's gonna die.
Yeah.
This is Smog's first time in the configuration. Also, Juice's first time in the configuration. He was aware of a bit what was going on. It's like, well, I've been meaning to do something with this place. I want to see what the fuck is happening in my world. And is the first to take control, get the group to a grassy knoll where he first remembered seeing the party he would eventually betray from his homeworld.
I wanted the direction be very player driven, and that the people and the scenes themselves would be decided by the players. It's not even like it has to be like physical motion. This place transforms around you all to create that scene. My ultimate goal was for this to also be a way to immerse everyone in parts from everyone else's homeworlds. Try to have a pretty rich way where everyone's backgrounds can be shared with each other in kind of visceral way, because you can actually meet some of the people from those worlds.
I personally don't talk about my family all the time, so like a lot of my characters don't talk about what the hell's going on back home all the time. This is a good way to force people to talk about where they came from and what was going on.
Up to this point, the most we had heard was that Asiri had a sister, didn't know any details about her.
I think they only mentioned that to Powder, too.
I thought you mentioned that you saw your sister in that one segment of The World Lost.
That's right, yeah, that's recent.
More recently, yeah.
I think Smog has talked about being on the run a little bit, but not really why or how much. But there's also like being a time traveler and having different amounts of times with different people. There's an implication I've left that he's given a more detailed version of his backstory to a couple different people along the way.
Yeah.
Right.
I like how Smog's plan of attack here is to sneak into the tent and have a quick exit in case he doesn't like what he hears.
Yeah, when you rolled that move to like stay hidden and the one thing you picked was being able to make a quick exit, that was choice.
It was a choice.
Eject button.
Smog wasn't sure that he would only see Charlene, and everyone else in that group has more motivation to just fucking kill him.
Like on site.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did have somewhat of a friendship with Charlene, kind of talked to most other people, did not really speak that much with her guardian, who just absolutely hated him. It could have been a really bad situation if it was not just her.
Literally one of the last things that Smog remembers about this group is a pretty difficult fight, nearly dying, and then disclosing some essential secrets about the Espers to them, saying like, hey, go get Shinlan, kick his ass for me, and then washes away, never to be seen again.
But there she is alone, sleeping on a cot. She's got her stuff next to her, and Smog's just whispering, trying to get her to wake up.
I definitely took some liberties with this. So I guess what we got was a reality, at least what Smog would call a timeline, seeing Charlene. But it turns out that things weren't so great afterwards. What were your thoughts on all of it, Alex?
I was trying to make sense of it in a gamey way, because that is Smog's backstory. Final Fantasy characters don't usually have story deaths when they die, but it would be interesting if the game ending accounted for you won, but you had one person standing.
Oh, yeah, like, yeah.
And that is something that happens in more like Western CRPGs. That would be heinous.
Yes.
Different outcomes depending on who makes it through the final encounters.
Ugh.
Yeah, because Charlene says everyone is gone and does not expand upon that when Smog asks. So it could be the whole party. It could be every other soul on the earth has been sucked up into ether.
Could be.
Just stares into the middle distance upon asking for clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Smog leaves.
He uses that quick exit, baby.
Smog does what Smog does best.
I love the fact that she just follows you out of the tent. We are just standing like 20 feet away.
You leave, you go 20 feet away, and then start talking to people, and She's not just going to stay there in the tent.
Look, at the core of TTRPG is perfect drama met immediately after with perfect comedy.
When Smog rejoins the rest of the group, he kind of hints, all right, maybe someone should also change the world.
Somebody leave. Somebody go do something else, please. I'm done.
Yeah. Hey, Tao, are you thinking about anyone right now?
You specifically asked Geyser, and Geyser was like, no, don't really want to go look at anything. Specifically, she said, anytime I want to look at stuff, it's not there.
As a player, I asked Geyser because I was the most interested in seeing what D might cook up. As a character, I asked Geyser because they're just like, what is going to be the furthest, weirdest thing away from here?
How can we distance ourselves?
I gotta go now.
Siri talks him down.
Siri's like, hey, buddy, maybe you're running away again. You should do better.
And I love that as they're back in a place where they're better and mirroring when a Siri is about to change playbook and feeling so pent up and Smog is just right up on her tank. Like, you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
You just have to write it out. Like,
Again, we are cosmic entities. We are opposite quarks in reality.
Siri and Smog represent complementary aspects of reality. It's not necessarily at ends, but like they're also inseparable.
Yeah. We're gonna be best friends forever, is what that means. And of course, Charlene follows out of the tent.
With the proposition, what Charlene's parents, who, for everyone else, died in a horrific lab accident, quote-unquote accident.
Yeah.
They were researchers who found ways of producing technology to contain espers. And that's what the corporation that's ruined the world from Smog's Final Fantasy game has exploited. There was this pendant that represented something that Charlene's parents left to them, and that Smog has sort of associated with Charlene as well. It also holds a particular type of summon. That didn't pop off. It's probably for the best, but I did some digging. If the need should ever arise, there's sort of one in the chamber, as it were.
Horrible.
I've got big ideas. I'm trying to think of making use of the fact that there are two versions of Smog that have different experiences in coming back to this, making that fact more important in finding some way to continue the world.
Yeah.
That Smog guarantees he will come back with a solution that does not involve Charlene sacrificing herself to summon.
Tragic. And then Smog in characteristic faction is like, anywhere else right now. Anyone, anywhere. Please.
Let's go.
Literally. So Siri's like, sure, I'll do you a solid. Let's go to my world of eternal darkness and wetness.
Back to the abyss.
Back to the abyss, because it is me and I am it. We get placed into a deep sea vent, putting off smoke and lava and all that, and it ends up splitting the party, which was fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always thought of is if you all go to meet Karina, wouldn't it be cool if at least some people saw something that they thought was a Siri, but in some very, very strong ways was not? Karina and this Siri are so close in appearance that the uninformed and far enough might confuse the two for each other. And I kind of wanted to play around the idea of Karina potentially trying to do some manipulation, trying to pose as a Siri in order to attain something, with the restriction of not being able to lie.
Yep.
Oh.
And I think it works really well here because we're in the abyss, and I assume Pony certainly doesn't, and I assume Geyser doesn't have any sort of night vision.
Yeah.
So all you're seeing is the stripes and maybe some ambient hues like around their body. Like, it would be very easy to mistake the two in that situation.
I love Geyser just slipping in a little bit at the abyss and Karina just laser focused on that.
You have one person that might be using the darkness and a similarity to someone else to deceive people, and you have another who is a sleuth and actively is trying to pierce through any veils of deception or mystery around them. It was a pretty fun dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Real props to Karina here for not just immediately trying to eat Pony and or Geyser.
Karina and Asiri are similar. Karina would at least see these very interesting creatures and learn what she can from them, and then maybe eat them.
Yeah,
Depends
sure.
how hungry she is.
Mhm.
Maybe she'd also just eaten previously, 5 weeks ago or
Yeah.
something.
I enjoy it when people have to play in the weird shenanigans I've set up, but not having to lie, but also manipulating people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love weird challenges like that. Karina is the Blackfire to Asiri's Starfire. There's a lot of similarities there. The issue is that the other one is a little distorted in worldview and how to treat other people. And that's where an interesting clash is.
If Karina were the player character, she would probably be a discarded in this game. Have very much that kind of mindset regarding people.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm trying to think, like, Charlene might be the friend.
There's a few options. A friend would be a very good one, though. I think that's a fun twist on it. Have someone who is a combative rogue, for sure, but also has a very compassionate side as well.
Mhm.
More of a support role in terms of party dynamics, even if in combat might be the one doing damage.
I love Geyser just being like, you're not telling me the truth.
Yeah. Her whole thing about, like, I don't know why you're trying to tell me that you're a theory, but you're not a theory.
The zero filter, all of the cards on the table.
Mhm.
Good for Karina trying to probe. Also, thank you for describing the shark physicality here. I love that Karina scrungled up and, like, gnashed a little bit.
Geyser and Pony, they disclosed that Asiri was the Abyss, which is something that Karina did not.
Right.
As far as she was concerned, the Abyss was something to build a relationship. As a reward, it will grant you powers. However, the utter dismay of finding out that her sister, who she had been very envious of, already being selected into a position of religious authority and status, was, as a matter of fact, the Abyss itself incarnate. That made her very angry, and the shark deep folk get angry, they scrungle.
Maybe she should have fostered a better relationship with the Abyss then.
Maybe she didn't understand the Abyss the entire time. She couldn't look past her own self-centeredness.
Asiri, Smog, and Tao finally catch up with the rest of the party, and Asiri's just like, C-Store, come here, I've missed you.
All bubbly.
She immediately runs to embrace her sister, and Karuna's just like, no.
What a toxic family relationship.
I love it. They really do get along fine. It's just this situation is pretty extreme, all things considered.
It is pretty wild.
Karina immediately dives in. What is this clown talking about? And I didn't think of this till after the game, so this is something I regret. My answer to Karina asking, what is it that I hear about you being the Abyss? It should have been, oh, we all have a relationship with the Abyss. Don't you know that? Like, something to the effect of...
Just drive the knife into it.
I'm pretty content with how vague I was in this scene, just being like, oh, you know, it's everywhere. I could have twisted the knife, as you said, so...
Mhm.
Then Assyria ropes in her sister on her plan to evacuate her people through time, possibly?
Yeah.
Like the mermaid exodus.
Listen, I'm solving a problem, right? Because this is Earth. Humans never discovered mermaids. If we're already dealing with time travel shenanigans, why not fix the loop and remove mermaids from the situation? As the series sees it, if humans are going to fuck up the planet, as she's already seen from Hound, then they're going to die anyway. So this doesn't change anything. In fact, it solves a problem. You just remove them.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Yeah.
Could, by revealing themselves, the mermaids avert disaster for the entire world.
Yes, change the timeline.
I don't know if Asiri and by proxy the Abyss thinks in like that method. Everything is cause and effect. It's not like if I alter the timeline here, then potentially it could cascade this way. It's more like this is what's happening. This is what is the most logical conclusion of what's currently going on right now. I feel like Asiri would not be very good at chess, is what I'm saying.
One turn ahead, not 10.
Yeah. The Abyss sort of just alters things as they are slightly. It's not like dramatic changes.
The Abyss sees the entire chessboard, but it doesn't know how to play chess.
The Abyss is eating pieces.
Yeah.
It's just-
Surprisingly, Karina agrees to gather all the folk, and they better at least try to get the river folk. I know we can't go directly into freshwater unless one of us is a bull shark. We need as many people as we can get together. So we'll see if Karina sticks true to her word. I think she will, or else, but we will see. The series just like point blank. I realized some stuff about you, and I don't want to like get into it now. I don't want to be mad about it. I just want to move on, which I think speaks a lot to a series' growth. I don't think she was ever one to like harbor a grudge, but I feel like it was very difficult for her to let go of past transgressions.
She does sort of build up a reflexive response to certain things.
It feels like a little bit of a diversion for Geyser and Asiri, because Asiri has been focused on a goal and what accomplishes that, whereas Geyser is now focusing on interrogating things and why they are the way they are.
Karina swims off into the darkness, and the series like, we should leave before she tries to eat you, Smog, so let's move on to the next one.
Specifically, Smog looks so small and tasty.
He looks bite-sized, is for what a series opinion is. She's been thinking about eating Smog for a while. Let's be real.
It's harder every time she's hungry.
Yeah, or Smog makes her mad.
From there, Tao takes lead and leads us to Hanabi P's apartment.
I was heavily debating what I wanted to do here. Last time we had mention of the configuration, last time we saw Thanos, you might remember that Tao tried to look for where in the configuration Cyclia was, and found that they seemed to have reordered the configuration to hide themselves, and Tao also saw a vision of what seemed to be someone dancing in front of red screens. I, as a player, really wanted to go follow up on that and have that be where Tao went. But I decided that Tao is seeing these people reconnecting with things from their past. Tao is getting homesick. Tao wants to go see Hanabi. Go for the character moment instead of for the plot.
Very excited for a chance for Tao and Hanabi to reconnect.
It would have been a little weird to have to play one of the not original characters, even though some of those are somewhat influential.
Yeah, the other two characters that Tao started out having links with were explicitly characters from other properties that I don't know if you've actually played. So Hanabi being an original character is a bit easier to go with that.
Tao in this form is almost unrecognizable.
This is not even the newer version of Tao who has created their own world. This is a version split off from that Tao to be an ambassador in the world of motion.
Yeah.
And so looks completely different from what you might think of as Tao typically.
If I had to say there's like a running through line in this expedition through the configuration, I would say that it kind of highlights how much you all have changed since the beginning.
That's what I wanted to hit on with going to see Hanabi here. I don't think Tao has talked about Hanabi to the party very much, but whenever they've mentioned him, it's been as a high schooler creating Tao and creating music. But it's been some time since then. Tao has been working on their goal to try to create a new world, working on their musical career for years. Yeah. And so Hanabi has now left high school and is in college and is in a much better situation in life.
By the time that Tao was pulled from their home world, it had already been a few years since all of the more dramatic events of the backstory.
It might have been closer to the elements of the games that Tao is related to, but in terms of Tao's initial goals and initial experiences with Hanabi, yeah, that's been quite a while.
It's also interesting metaphorically thinking of like, I made this coping mechanism for myself, but I had to refine things and it had to live on its own before it could help other people.
Take a life of its own.
Like, you can't immediately have that.
I just thought it was really interesting for Tao to have this moment of nostalgia, want to go back to see Hanabi again, and then realizing, I did it. I did what I wanted to do to help you, but you don't need it anymore.
Oh, my heart.
I do like how that scene out of all of the others felt like the most nostalgic. It was a way of reminiscing fondly, despite how hard things were.
Everyone else that we meet is in danger, even Shiro. So
Yeah.
there's this space to be comfortable in that moment. And that's really nice for Tao.
Hanabi is sitting at a computer working on making some music for college classes, presumably in music theory or something along those lines. Hardly recognizes Tao because of how different they look now. Tao is singing along to the music tracks that they see on Hanabi's screen, even though can't hear the music, it's being piped into his headphones. So familiar with what Hanabi does that they could sing along with it anyways.
The part where Hanabi's like, is that my old phone?
Yes, I wanted to do that.
I like to think that Juice is like toting this around to give to the different towns or something. To explain why any of them have it at any given moment.
Baton pass.
Hell yeah.
I like the idea that the same way that the first time Smog met Tao, it was the phone and then materializing out of the phone. That might be how all of the other Taos came into their world through a phone being dropped there.
Okay.
That's really good.
That works really well with what I was already thinking might be going on with Tao, and will probably factor into one of the Smog's endings. So,
Hanabi and Tao have their moment. Hanabi's like, alright, go get him, Tao. And it's Pony's turn, and the world starts to shift. The apartment vanishes away, and now we're in the middle of an enchanted forest next to a delightfully fresh pond. And the mythical unicorn Shiro Blanco is taking a delicate sip.
It's White. We
Woohoo!
finally meet.
yes, completely white, but everything has a little undertone of blue.
Iridescence.
They're a magical unicorn. They can't just be one color. There has to be something else going on.
Caroline had the best description.
16 hands high, horn 18 inches long. Clearly puts a lot of thought into this, and absolutely love this. Shiro Blanco is very, very good.
I also like the moment where we all warp in and Shiro Blanco is just like looking at us. Asiri does her typical wave. Tao also waves. Juice also waves. And then Smog's just like cross arms, shaking his head grumpy.
Shiro Blanco almost bolted away, thinking if they were caught off guard after all of these years or not. But
yeah, his primary concern seems to be that Pony wants to steal his power.
Not just Pony, everyone who really sought out unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
Shiro Blanco has gotten to a mythical status, and because so little is known about him, more and more desirable things pile up on reasons why you should encounter or capture or kill or do whatever with this unicorn. Shiro Blanco's situation has some parallels with Pony's. They both always had to be on the move. Pony's never really finding a place to call home or not having found a unicorn yet, but Shiro Blanco's is a little bit more because they can't really be found by any.
And people always want to exploit both of them.
Right.
The, pardon the pun, unbridled ramble that Pony gives the celebrity crush, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god, I'm
gushing.
Yeah. Is spilling her entire life story to this man who's just, like, getting a cup of water in his kitchen.
Just running into a celebrity while grocery shopping. And
It's basically like in his bathrooms equivalent.
It was magical.
it was great.
I was amazed in this scene. Smog fulfilled the purpose of the dark, but through one of his first actions in the Anachronism playbook by taking Pony aside and being like, you're not a unicorn. You're going to have great magic behind you, but you have to work on it. And trying to be a unicorn might hold you back. Seeing Pony put some of those things back out, but also have it backed up by the fact that people are constantly teaching her about magic, that she tried to pursue that path and other people helped her do it, was just heartwarming.
It was really fulfilling. And again,
That
goes
was
back to
great.
what Dan said. We've all changed so much through the course of this. I think Pony perhaps the most dramatically, at least as far as motivations here.
Pony's entire worldview was flipped throughout this process for sure. Going from either I am a unicorn and I just have to activate this somehow, or I have to eat something in order to become a unicorn. I can be great on my own.
I assume that's a big part of why Smog seemed so displeased to see Shiro Blanc. Smog has been working with Pony so much, and then here comes the person that seems to be the source of Pony's inferiority complex.
But then she just crushed it. She completely amazed him and made that conversation not horrible to listen to.
That was a great moment. I think that's my favorite Pony moment of the game.
It was really good.
I'm better because all these people put this effort into me. So I guess it's my turn now to put that energy into everybody else around me, too. And Shiro Blanco, in some sort of weird sage wisdom, is like, you understand the course of the universe. Let me bestow upon you a gift so that you might serve that purpose.
It was less of cosmic, grandiose nature, and it was more of Pony had earned Shiro Blanco's respect, despite not having known each other for very long. That manifested itself in the form of a wish. And the full implications for that, I'm not sure quite yet. Maybe it'll be something they can do later.
In a fairy tale, when you learn a moral, you get a gift.
Yeah, it was a fairy tale ending.
At the very least, could be a great excuse for whatever Carolyn would like to choose for a playbook, because I know she's been having trouble bridging that. So just be like, my wish does it. And that feels like an earned moment. I
would agree. After that heartfelt moment with Pony and Shiro Blanco, the world starts to alter and shift away, and we are in the trajectory to being pulled back into Sequence Charter. However, along the way, we get some interference, and we get the vision of the governance's secret communications tower with all their fucking ships and harvestmen and weapons and everything on a beach. And then we lose that and immediately wake back up in the goddamn portal in front of Aura and all the rest of the scientists.
You all come back to a lab that's pretty busy with soldiers going in and out of it, researchers and people working communication desks. There's auto turrets that have been set up that identify you all coming back so that they can deactivate.
Smog's tablet gets a warning that the time elapsed has exceeded. Possibly they couldn't pull us back from the configuration. We're on a 2-day timer.
Aura says that it's been 60 days. Pony replies, that's 2 months.
That's like 2 months.
That's like 2 months. Title drop.
Title of the episode.
Smog is disturbed by having been gone this long. Is immediately like, we just left a bunch of people after the governance attacked, and we revealed shit about their world that they need to deal with. We need to go help them now. Or it just slaps the interworld communication device they finished over the 2 months into Smog and Taz's hands.
There's been a lot of big changes. There was a horse-shaped object being covered by a tarp.
Horse armor, horse armor, horse armor.
The armor has been completed as well.
Umbra was working on that.
Among other things that were being repaired or constructed. I think next time's going to be a lot.
The next time's going to pop off, and I'm excited and terrified about it.
Tau and Pony playbook changes.
Oh, is Pony that close to a playbook change too?
She's been sitting on it because she hasn't figured out what gets her to the next playbook narratively.
Yeah.
And I feel like we just got that.
Yeah.
In two different ways.
That's
two different flavors. Neapolitan Pony transformation.
Oh, God. That's a good color palette for her.
Oh, with the cotton candy geyser transformation? We're going to become the dessert crew.
Aura has given us these communication devices, but there's been something that's been ticking in the back of a series, little fish brainula. She asked Aura directly about what was the original setup for the experiment that brought us into this scenario. Aura's like, we don't have time to get into this right now, which I guess is true.
Aura asked if you all had time to get into this right now.
Right.
And Swag and Tower were like, we gotta go.
We gotta go. You can deal with that. Yeah.
Definitely something I'm going to pursue more next session. But I don't get the sense that Aura is lying, because Dan would have told me that. But I feel like Aura is leaving out something massively important, and we are missing a piece here that could solve a lot of stuff. I can't let it go.
Yeah, you should chase that.
They also acknowledged that it was very flawed. They were working fast and breaking things because they didn't have any other options.
One of their portals goddamn exploded when they were trying to do something that was even more controlled. They do not have world travel on lockdown. There's been some advancements for sure, but we're talking about the span of 4 to 6 months. There's been a lot of growth. This last part was to really highlight how much that sequence charter in the hub world has changed from all of your actions.
Now it's a military defense squad.
Yes.
They have troops in each of the other worlds that we've been to.
Yeah.
Shit sucks, man.
Acknowledging all of this growth, both as a player and a character, Smog is like, I'm proud of all of you. Because this is this version of Smog leaving them for quite a while. And he's seen possibly future versions of them that are so set in who they are and powerful. And it's like, wow, but I came back and you're still better than I remember.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Yeah. Tau and Smog head back to the World of Motion, and we end the session. What would y'all have done differently?
I already mentioned this, but I really wanted to follow up on that lead with Cyclia in the configuration. I just wish we had time to do that scene in addition to all of our backstory scenes, but didn't quite get there. And I suppose that's all right.
Very big question, though.
I touched on mine as well in serious conversation with Karina. The biggest thing I should have said is, why are you taking the word of Geyser? They don't know the Abyss as well as you and I do, which would have been very mean to Geyser, but at the same time, it's also true.
I'm very happy with having Charlene there. I wouldn't want to change that at all. It would be interesting to have something more confrontational, especially since I was setting the tone. I was the first person to go, to have a different character I had to link with, Sydney, to be there, because we know from previously entering the configuration that there is a bounty out on Smog, probably because he fucked up his previous bounty.
Some things with that governance encounter could have been cleaned up a bit on my end throughout. I do think there were some points where my descriptions were confusing and or didn't leave enough room for y'all to initiate on. So I guess that's something that I'm still trying to make sure I work on, is that I convey information without confusion, because that's not the intention.
Something that was really helpful for when Zach was running Sentinel comics is having a battle map, but where you only loosely care about positioning.
Yeah.
Because then you have an environment that you sit your characters on. You can kind of see vaguely where people are for determining how you want to do things.
And I would just get Google images of the lobby of this big corporation. Here's a lobby. Oh, there's an escalator over there in this image. There's characters at the top of the escalator. Not really caring about this is X feet away from this, because that's not what the system does.
Let's get into the resolution phase, the segment of the show where we each get to say something about the game with no responses. What is your final say on this session, Daniel?
One world remains that you all haven't traveled to yet, haven't connected yet. It'll be a very interesting change of pace. I don't have any social media to plug, so I will give a recommendation for the ELA project. This is a YouTube channel of speculative biology on an alien planet, a fictional one, that is tidally locked with its star, much like Chrysalis is with its star. And what made me really happy is that we share some opinions about how some things would work. Like the sunward side is going to get pretty hot and dry towards the center, and the nighttime side is gonna be really cold and icy, and it'll create a lot of winds between the dawn and the dusk side. Wherever a settlement would be, or wherever a location is, the sun's gonna be in pretty much the same position all the time. So that permanent sunset look of Sequence Charter is kind of spot on for at least a consensus for how that might seem.
What about you, Zach?
No one asked where this world's Tau was when they got back to Sequence Charter, and I'm just going to leave it at that. You can find me on Blue Sky at Zach Defense.
And for you, Alex?
I think I've said something to this effect before, but it would be so cool to take two seemingly divergent options and have the knowledge from both of them and be able to act on that information. You can find me on Blue Sky at Shining Crowbat. This week I recommend the Lamplighters League from Harebrained Schemes. It is a strategy game. It sort of comes in the line of their Shadowrun games, so there are some role-playing elements, but it has like a pulpy comic book theme, so you're going all around the world to these locations, stopping evil factions from getting their hands on technologies and magic artifacts so they do not control all of magic and take over the world. The character writing is surprisingly good for one of these sort of XCOM-like strategy games because they come from a CRPG background. The most interesting part of this take is that there are stealth takedowns before you go into tactical sections, and there's sort of a real-time exploration aspect. They're just really well done. It helps balance out the encounters, and it always makes me feel really good when I can take out like 10 enemies before even fighting.
And for myself, I think maybe next session, Siri needs to buddy up with Geyser and we need to do some interrogation on Aura. You can find me buried under the clearance Halloween bin at your local craft store. Please get me out of here. There's glitter everywhere. This has been Resolve, an Afterplay show. You can find us online at most social media sites at Resolve AP.
Except Instagram, which is at Resolve Afterplay.
Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. You can buy the game we're playing, Interstitial, Our Hearts Intertwined, from its creator, Riley Hopkins, at linksmithgames.com.
All links will be included in the episode description.
Thank you again for listening. We end our turn here, so now it's your turn. Tell us what's happening in your game.